G'day everybody, Spud here from Spud's Old Games. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video, we're going to be looking at the Hydra 2.2 automatic Scart switch with 8 in and 2 out. Let's go. So I suppose first up, let's take a look at why I got a new Scart switch, and this is what I used to have. So this was the old Otaku mechanical type switch, Scart switch, where you had switches on the side, you hear them clicking there to flick between different inputs. You had 6 in, so 6 in and then 1 out. Now the good thing about this as well, you also had RCA jack, so you could not only have Scart, but for instance, if you broke out S-Video into Chroma Luma, or you had composite or component, you could also utilize that to send it through the Scart, or you can also use the output on the RCA. So that was one good thing about this particular Scart switch. But as time went on, because it's so mechanical, this switch, these big long switches here you can see that did all the switching, they've started to wear out. And what I'm getting is mixed results when switching, to the point where some consoles, you know, I've got to keep flicking backwards and forwards to clean the contacts on the switch. I'll stop doing that so it's not so annoying. But yeah, I've got to keep doing that until I get a proper sync, or, you know, the proper colors coming through. So initially I thought it was my cables on my console, but as it turns out, it's these switches, and this unit itself is the problem. So it was time I upgraded to a new unit anyway. So that new unit is this particular switch here, which is the Hydra 2.2 from Letharic. Now, I'm not going to lie, it did cost a fair bit of money. It was about $150 Australian to get this imported from Poland, where it was manufactured and designed. And it's the latest model that they've got. Now, just, you know, a quick overview. This has 8 inputs and 2 outputs. The 2 outputs are simultaneous, so you can have one signal coming in and you can output to 2 different monitors. So let's take a look at the switch itself. Obviously, I mentioned before we've got 8 inputs. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we've got 2 outputs. Here, they can do simultaneous as well. So we just move it to this side. We've got 2 power options. We've got a 9-volt power option, or we've got a little micro USB power option here. You don't need both, but you do need one of them to power this unit. Otherwise, it won't work. On this side, and I'll touch a bit on the labeling in a minute, but this switch essentially, I believe it switches between the 9-volt or the 5-volt power supply. So you can't have both on at the same time anyway. And then we come across to this series of buttons here. We've got switch 3, 2, 1, and switch 4 and 5. Switch 3, which I'm glad they went with 3, 2, 1 instead of 1, 2, 3, looking at the manual or the instructions. The switch 3, so for instance, if you've got input 5 on, say it's a Mega Drive playing away and you want to switch it to, manually switch it to input 1, then this button here will manually go back through until it finds that one. And likewise, that one sends it right. Now, pressing them both together disables what they call the Night Rider feature, and I'll show you what that is in a minute. The middle button is a HD low pass filter. I'm not 100% sure what that does. I haven't really mucked around with it, and I don't intend to. And these 2 buttons here to do with sync on these 2 outputs, depending on what monitor you're using. But apparently, not so much a CRT or a TV, but if you're using things like an OSSC or something like that, an upscaler, then sometimes you need to switch between the 75 ohm termination on sync and TTL. I'm not 100% sure what that means, but apparently there are some issues there with some upscalers where that will resolve that issue. This little black thing here is an IR receiver. There is an option to have a remote with this. I didn't take up that option. This little switch here, not 100% sure what it does. I think that's to do with sync on green. So, and it's to do with a specific input, which I think was input 2. Now, if you've got a Scart with sync on green rather than C-Sync, then you switch that to on for that one, and it will switch that to sync on green. And the same as this RGB auto switch. Now, I've left it on auto, but apparently there are some computers where that switch, where there's an issue, that switch will then resolve it. I think they said it was on input 5 or input 8, looking at the manual. So that will then resolve that problem. I think it was the ZS Spectrum or something like that that had that issue, or yeah, something like that. So that resolved that issue, but they recommend if you don't have any issues, just leave it on auto. The same as if you don't have any issues here, then leave that to the left. Just an overall look at it now. So you can get this PCB only. I decided to get it with the inverted commas case, which essentially is just 2 layers of perspex. You can see there. It is pretty well built. It does have these rubber feet on the bottom. And it does give good anti-slip because we know SCART cables can be quite chunky and they can bend and whatnot and throw the SCART switch all over the place. But the grip feet are pretty good. You know, when I test it, I'm pretty sure it'd be right to stay nice and square. I like to have things nice and square in the collection, so that should keep that nice and stuck. Another thing I forgot to mention here, you can break out the audio as well via these 2 RCAs. It does send the audio via SCART, but if you need to break it out for some reason, then you do have the left and right channels here as well. So what we'll do now is we'll go and plug it all in. We'll give it a test. Okay, so now we've got it all plugged in. We've got 5 inputs there. That orange cable at the back is a micro USB cable to power it. Then we've got our big chunky one on the right there going to our PVM. Now we'll go ahead and turn it on. You'll see that we're greeted by a green light here, and then you'll see those red LEDs tracking through. Now that's what they call the Knight Rider effect in this instance. I'm not 100% sure what it's supposed to do other than look pretty cool. But for me, that would be quite annoying at night time because it just constantly does that. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it off by pressing that button 3 and 1 together, which has now turned that flashing LED off. So I've gone ahead, I'll just turn my CRT on, I'll just move the camera and then we'll give this thing a bit of a go. Okay, so we've got the CRT on, we've got the switch here all ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the Mega Drive on. And you'll see there that it just comes straight on. Now I haven't touched anything there, it's all auto switched, so that's not a problem. What I'll do is I'll just turn that off. I'll give the SNES a go as well. And there we go, the SNES is now on. And we'll just, for good measure, turn that off. We'll try the PS2. So you can see there the PS2 with the Matrix chip has loaded in there as well. So that's, you see there, all automatic. I haven't touched anything there. And yeah, it automatically detects which input is on. So one thing I mentioned before about the manual side of things. So if I, for instance, have the SNES on, which is on at the moment there, you can see the EverDrive screen. If I, for instance, now turn the Mega Drive on, you'll see it won't automatically flick to the Mega Drive. But you can manually search for it. Now I can see here from a red LED that the SNES is pretty much the last input that I've got on here. So I know that the Mega Drive is going to be left of that, so I want this to scan left. So I just press the button on the left and it will scan until it finds the Mega Drive one. If I want to go back, I just press the button on the right and it will scan back until it finds something on the right hand side. Now if there's multiple inputs on, you scan right, it'll pick up the first one, scan right again, it'll go and pick up the next one. So that's just a manual way of searching for those inputs if you've got multiple inputs on at the same time. Okay, so let's give it our last test now, which is utilizing the 2 inputs on here, or sorry, 2 outputs on here. I've got them, one going to the PVM at the bottom, the other one going to this LCD PVM at the top. Both do RGB, so they both should receive the signal at the same time. I'll just turn my Mega Drive on. And there we go. So they both receive the signal. I'll just turn the controller on. I'll pick a game. Good old Sonic. And you can see there, I'll just turn that down before it gets too loud. You can see there that they're both outputting the same picture at exactly the same time. Now I must admit, it's a good lag test actually between the LCD and the PVM. You can definitely, I don't know, I can't pick up any lag difference there. Anyway, but I suppose a good example would be, this is a good example of it outputting. to two different outputs at the same time, two different TVs or CRTs or PVMs or whatever you want to output to, as long as it's got RGB Scart, then it works absolutely fine. Once again, if I turn the SNES on, let's wait for that to warm up. Now I know the Mega Drive's the light's on all the way to the left, so I know that the SNES input's going to be on the right hand side. So if I just scan right, it should pick up the SNES one there. So if I scan back to the left, it should pick up the Mega Drive again. There we go. So there we go. There's, I suppose, as I said before, a good example of it outputting both of those outputs at the same time to two different sources. So just a couple of things to note after testing that I'll just run you through quickly. One, if you turn that Knight Rider effect off, so the LED is scanning backwards and forwards, then when you do have an input on, you lose all your LEDs, so you actually won't know which input's on. So I suppose the way to accommodate that is maybe leave all the LEDs on so it does have that scrolling effect, and if you're not using it, just turn it off, other than turn the LEDs off, because I found it, I'd rather have the LEDs on showing me what inputs are there rather than having all LEDs off. So I just might have to put up with the Knight Rider flashing effect. If I was to critique anything with this, the labeling, and I'll just zoom in here, or actually I'll just bring it up, hopefully the camera. You'll see it's got this weird type of labeling. If I can just sort of point it out, where is it? It's over in this corner here. It's like labeled JH1 or J1H, J1G, blah, 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 rather than have, input 1, input 2, input 3, etc. Then, yeah, I don't know why they've labeled it like that, but anyway, that's what they've done. Also, maybe a little bit more around the buttons as well. A bit more of a description over the buttons that would be good. And the documentation was a little bit hard to find as well. Like, you've got to kind of put two and two together, bits and pieces from the website. So, other than that, but, I'd definitely say, yeah, it's a really good product, and I'd definitely recommend it for sure. So there it is, the Litharic Hydra 2.2 Scart Switch. Would I recommend it? Yep, 100%. It costs a bit of money, but all the tests I've put it through, I definitely would recommend it for sure. So that's it from me, guys. Pretty simple, quick video. I hope you enjoyed it, and until the next one, I'll see you then.